I narrowed it down to this one. I'm choosing it because it's coming from an angle more of his life experience storytelling from when he was working on research down in the rainforest of the Amazon, which was near the beginning of the destruction of said rainforest. This quote is an illustration of the effect that it had on him when he saw what was going on. He wrote, "The tropical rainforest north of Manaus, like that in many other parts of the Amazon basin, is being clear-cut from the edge inward. It's being lifted up from the ground like a carpet rolled off a bare floor, leaving behind vast stretches of cattle range and cropland that need artificial fertilization to sustain even a marginal productivity for more than just 2 or 3 years. The rainforest in Brazil differs fundamentally from a deciduous woodland in Pennsylvania or Germany in the way that its key resources are distributed. A much greater fraction of the organic matter is bound up in the tissue of the standing trees themselves, so that the leaf litter and humus are only a few inches deep. When the forest is felled and burned, the hard equatorial downpours quickly wash away the thin blanket of topsoil. Although I had this general information in advance, I was still shaken by the sight of newly cleared land around Manaus. The pans and hillocks of lateralitic clay, littered with blackened tree stumps, bore the look of a freshly deserted battlefield. Spherical termite mounds sprouted from the fallen wood in ill-fated population explosion, while vultures and swifts wheeled overhead, a representation of the mostly vanished bird fauna. Bony white cattle, forlorn replacements of a magnificent heritage, clustered in small groups around the scattered watersheds. Near midday, the heat of the sun bounced up from the bare patch of soil to hit with an almost tactile force. It was another world altogether, away from the shadow tunnels of the nearby forest, and a constant reminder of what had happened. Tens of thousands of species had been scraped away by a giant hand, and it will be not seen in this place for generations again, if ever. The action can be defended, with difficulty, on economic grounds, but it's like burning a Renaissance painting to cook dinner."
Yeah,
Like,
so that's
nutshells it into that little visual for you. Like,
yeah,
oh, we have
yeah,
to
yeah.
heat up this can of beans. Let's go burn some Renoir, Like,
I think that's the quote I was referencing earlier about the rainforest.
yeah,
He just really like everyone should be quoting him when they're talking about rainforest deforestation. Like, and in the beginning of the book, when he's talking about the ants and the birds and stuff, he mentions those tunnels and he mentions how cool it is under all the tree cover. And I remember all hearing about the rainforest. Oh, it's hot and humid. It's hot and humid. But he talks about, I mean, I'm sure it's still hot, but he talks about how cool it was. And I was just really surprised that there was any mention of that. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, because now, it's relatively more recent news, i.e., from his time period. It's more recent to be like, oh, shoot. The more rainforest has been destroyed, the higher our climate has continued to rise. Like trees are not just carbon sinks, but they are actively like cooling the planet too. And if you're taking away the bulk of some of the most tree covered areas on the entire planet, that's going to be a problem. And I thought it was interesting too. I guess, I might have loosely known it, but I hadn't actively thought about it. But I like that he bothered to make that point, scientific true fact. It's not so much a point to be made, but just that I don't think a lot of people understand how different ecosystems and biomes function differently, as such. So most of the diversity and the life in the rainforest is up in the canopy.
mm-hmm.
And, compared to like a deciduous forest, even like what we live in, the topsoil might be much richer and deeper because the trees have a totally different life cycle than they do in the rainforest. So, people slash and burn to make rangeland in North America too, and it still usually has devastating ecological impact, but not necessarily as quickly and severely, even to a degree, as can be noticed somewhere like the rainforest, because the rainforest doesn't have a leg to stand on if there are no trees. Like the ground is just like you said, the rain very quickly just turns it into a washout of rock, and it's just dead.
It's like the moon
Yeah.
or Mars. Here's Mars. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I mean,
practice your Mars mission by going down to the rainforest and
that you clear cut.
it. And if it works down there, maybe then we'll talk.